Look at us. Look at you. Look at me. We're here. We're doing it. It's my buddy Groot. It's your buddy Carson. That's me. And we're here for another Film Club pick. You guys, we made it. We did it. We watched our, 102nd film now? Man, we're just moving through these things. We've been doing pretty well. Not gonna lie. Our 100th film was 8.5. We just watched Nostalgia. So we've gotten, Fellini, Tarkovsky, and here we are landing at Yasujiro Ozu's masterpiece, Late Spring. I hope you got a chance to watch it. This movie is so good. I had not seen it before watching it with this group, so I'm so grateful and glad that we watched it. We've only watched one other Ozu film in our film club. We watched his widely considered masterpiece, which is Tokyo Story. Fun fact about these two films, they are the two highest ranking Japanese films on the Sight and Sound poll for the 250 best films of all time. If you're not familiar with the Sight and Sound poll, it's done every 10 years. It's a conglomerate of filmmakers and critics who all vote on their favorite films. And so this list changes every 10 years. The most recent one came out in 2012. So we get that to look forward to in 2022, baby. But yeah, Tokyo Story is the highest ranking Japanese film on there at number 3. And coming in at number 15 is our film that we just watched, Late Spring, from 1949. It's post-war Ozu. We're establishing Ozu's quintessential style with this film. We're looking at static camera shots, family drama, low angles. Yeah, if you're unfamiliar with Yasujiro Ozu, he is, if not Kurosawa, it's Ozu as far as Japanese master filmmakers. Obviously, there's other great names to include on the list, but those are the two guys that sit at the top of the list. And they couldn't be more different. Ozu doesn't move his camera a whole lot. He's known for just kind of sticking the camera somewhere and hitting record. But his shot composition is always impeccable. He did develop, I forget what it's called, but it's this low angle that kind of mimics kneeling on the ground in Japan. So it is kind of a cool thing there. But yeah, this is the first film in the loose Noriko trilogy, because we do follow our lead character here, Noriko, played by the ultimate movie star, Setsuko Hara. Wow, she's amazing in this. We'll get to her in a minute. But yeah, she plays a woman named Noriko in 3 of Ozu's films. She plays Noriko in this film. They're all different Norikos. They just share the same name, and they're all single women. But we also have Early Summer is the next one in this trilogy, and then finished up with Tokyo Story. So what's kind of cool is that in this club alone, we've watched the first 2. So now, you can go out on your own. I'm sure it's on the Criterion channel, and go watch Early Summer, and you can complete the Noriko trilogy for yourself. He wrote this film, Ozu, with Kogo Noda. I'm not 100% sure that I'm saying his name correctly, but they had worked together previously before the war in the 30s, and they hadn't worked together for 14 years. They got back together for this film, and then they worked on every film together of Ozu's after that. Ozu never made another film after Late Spring without Noda. The two of them wrote the screenplays for all the films, so it's kind of cool that this bromance wound up being such a professional pillars, 2 pillars, baby. Yeah, this is, I'm trying to go over some of the stuff that I found out about the movie. Oh, this is kind of cool. It won the award for the Kinema Janpo Critics' Best Film. Not sure that I'm saying that right either. I don't know if you found out, but I don't speak a whole ton of Japanese. I still have to watch these movies with subtitles on. So I will say Ozu famously won this award 4 years in a row earlier, before Late Spring. And I don't know right off the top of my head if he won after Late Spring, but I want to say he probably did for at least Tokyo Story. Yeah, this film, it's kind of interesting to think that Ozu was making films under the Japanese censorship program before and during the war. And then after the war, you have the American occupation censors. So there was a team of American censors that would make sure that your film that was being made fit within all the parameters of the new Japan that America, I guess, was helping build. This movie almost didn't get made because of these censors. They did not approve of the arranged marriage. I wrote it down here. It takes away the importance of the individual. So the film almost didn't exist on the merit of this arranged marriage. Ozu, I was reading up on it, and if you're curious, you should read up a little bit about it yourself. But Ozu did some really clever skating around the censors. He had some things that he certainly wanted to say within this film, given the state of the world in post-war Japan. You have to remember that 4 years prior to this film coming out, Hiroshima had been bombed. So it's just, we're still cleaning up from Japan. So let's get into the movie itself. We do have, like I said, Setsuko Hara as Noriko, and the second she comes onto the screen, she's beaming and radiant and smiling, and we meet her at like a tea ceremony with some other women. I love this about Ozu, that he'll like just subtly kind of steep you into the film that you're about to watch of his. I say with modern audiences, and maybe you found this to be true, but I like to tell people that are about to experience Ozu for the first time that it takes a second to kind of get into what he's doing, because since he doesn't move the camera very much, we're just kind of getting to know a family. And we don't really deal with a whole lot of things outside of the problems within this family. So like this movie, for example, you can sum up in one sentence. A very happy girl lives with her old father. She enjoys taking care of him. Outside pressure is telling her to get married. He's feeling the pressure to kind of convince her to get married. She doesn't really want to get married because she likes hanging out with her dad. She likes being there for him and taking care of him. And ever since her mom died, his wife died, she's been taking care of him. She's his only child. I guess this was a little longer than a sentence long, but I mean, that's the story, is that we have a girl who, her aunt is saying, you should get married. You're 27 years old. One of her best friends who just got divorced is like, you should get married. Everyone in her life is telling her to get married. Her father is telling her, hey, this guy, he's pretty cool. There's actually this great moment. There is one scene where the camera moves in this film. There's a beautiful bike ride scene that takes place. Her and I guess it's her father's assistant or something. They go on this bike ride together after it's already kind of been established that maybe, under the right circumstances, these two should get married. And they have this wonderful day where it's just the two of them out riding their bikes. And we do have this little bit of camera movement. But they, have a delightful conversation. And if you didn't know any better, we would think that this is a budding romance. But really, the scene is just used to show us that he's actually, well, we don't even find out in this scene. We find out after the fact that he is engaged to someone else. And Noriko is well aware of that. And her dad just doesn't know. And so he has this awkward moment where he asks if she's interested in him. And he's like, Dad, he's engaged. What are you talking about? But that scene I did read about has some interesting stuff. If you watch the film and you notice, there's a shot of a Coca-Cola sign. So a little diamond sign that in English says, enjoy Coca-Cola. More in that scene, as they're biking, they cross a bridge. And on this bridge, in English, it talks about the tonnage that is allowed to cross the bridge, which was a very subtle way of Ozu kind of showing that we are dealing with Japan in American occupation, right? The weight that this bridge can withstand is not important information to these two figures riding bicycles, but it lets us, the audience, know that there are Americans driving around in big militarized vehicles. And so without having to beat us over the head with it, we are made aware that this is American-occupied Japan. I really appreciate, too, deviating from the plot a little bit here. Ozu does this great thing with this film. I kept noticing it because I couldn't help but remove the time that this film was made from my watching of it. I think it's always important to kind of soak in when a film was made and also where it's from. Last night when we watched it, we had sushi and drank green tea as we watched this film. I felt like it was probably appropriate, and it wound up being a really nice way to enjoy the atmosphere. But anyway, Ozu putting in these subtle things and getting around the censors and stuff, it kind of creates this atmosphere where now there's a couple moments where we talk kind of longingly and lovingly about Kyoto and taking vacations here and there and whatever. And in a way, Ozu is kind of spotlighting Japan's glorious past without having to deal with its recent dishonor. We're able to kind of enjoy these ancient temples and these old places and these beautiful places, and speaking of them in this way and enjoying them as we do go to Kyoto towards the end of the film. But it almost kind of wholesomely spotlights, we're still here, our country's still here, we may have lost the war, but we haven't lost who we are, and we can move on and grow this way together. So I think that's really worth mentioning. But yeah, the thing that I'm sure if you watch this film you noticed as well, and I think it's really important to bring up, is that Noriko does in fact wind up agreeing to marrying this guy that her aunt has set her up with, and she says that he kind of looks like Gary Cooper, which is this fun little gag that kind of keeps playing out whenever we talk about this prospective husband for Noriko. But another filmmaker would probably want to show us this character. Another filmmaker or storyteller might find an important reason to show us the wedding. The wedding does happen towards the end of the film, but we are never privy with our eyeballs to the husband, the prospective husband. We also do not see the wedding. And Ozu is really good at doing this as a storyteller, where he'll take kind of the seemingly the most important pieces of a story and show us everything else. And he's really good and effective at doing it. We don't need to ever see the husband. And by the end, I was actually so glad that we never did, because he was never important, really. What was important was whether or not she was going to choose to go. And making that the crux of the story, you wind up with these climactic moments that are just based on a little piece of information. Like there's a little gasp when she's in her beautiful wedding dress. It's this very traditional gown, and she's about to go get married, and her dad says, "Yeah, I don't have anything else to say," and she kind of stops him and says, like, and I'm paraphrasing, but like, "Do I have to do this? I'm happy with you. I want to stay with you." And he has this beautiful monologue where he tells her how it may not be in a year or two, it may not be in 5 or 10, but if you work at it, you can earn saying that you're man and wife, and you can be in love, and you can be happy. And it was actually a really beautiful thing to see. And she has such a heartbreaking moment in that scene, man. I don't want to spoil the ending, but I will say she's so smiley and full of light, like I mentioned earlier, in the beginning of the film. You almost never see her without a smile. So then once it does go away the first time, you notice. But man, in that scene towards the end with her dad, she looks up and she tries so hard to smile. And she's really struggling. She's clearly about to cry. And he even tries to smile back and give her the strength she needs. And it's a really powerful little poignant moment. And it's so interesting that that's Ozu's bread and butter. He's the best at it. I don't need to move this camera around. I don't need to have a bunch of extraneous things. I'm just going to show you some normal working class family people dealing with very normal problems. And, 60 years from now, critics and filmmakers alike are going to call these some of the best movies ever made. So I'm just so glad that we watched this one. And I'll pick some more Ozu in the future because he's just so wholesome and wonderful to experience. It's really just a heartwarming trip to the movies. So yeah, me and Groot are excited to tell you about a little something. There's a podcast coming, baby. That's right. Maybe you've seen on Instagram me and my buddy JT, who runs a separate movie group called the Quarantine Film Club. He picks a movie a day that's always readily available on Netflix and Amazon and Hulu and stuff. So if you're looking for some more just like picks, go follow him at Quarantine Film Club. You'll find a lot of great stuff there. But him and I are going to start chatting together and doing a podcast together. So once that's up and running, I'll definitely have all the information for you, so that you don't have to go far to find it. But I'm excited about it. It should be really cool. We got another pick coming, so be on the lookout for that. If you don't already and you want to see what I was just talking about, you need to follow us on Instagram, because that's where you're going to see our top 5 live. But most likely we're going to be doing a lot of more stuff with the podcast. So more to listen, more talking about films coming your way. In the meantime, if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel, like and comment on this and all the videos, all of them. Just go for it. Just type away. Follow us on, like I said, Facebook, Instagram. And you know what? Shoot me a line. If you want to recommend a movie to me, go ahead. We're going to watch movies as a community. So if there's some community input on what we should watch, throw it my way. You can always check previous picks on our letterboxed list. It's updated every week. It's Filmstruck Film Club, what we've watched so far. You can check that out. It's right at the top in our Facebook group, so it's nice and easy there. But yeah, that's enough advertisements and updates. Just so glad to be here. Enjoy Late Spring if you haven't watched it already. I didn't want to spoil the ending, but there is a beautiful little at the end there. This means twist. But yeah, farewell. Stay safe. Much love, and we'll see you soon.